Yeah, look, it's a tough one, for Jack. I talked with him before the tournament. I practiced with him before he went to Eastbourne, and felt like he was, hitting the ball very clean with a very, good speed. I always say personally, when he's at his best, he's one of the best players in the world, and he has shown this already so many times. Yeah, it's tough for the UK. Also I'm out, Jack out, and it's tough.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Wimbledon Day 1 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat.
Sinner survives a 5-set battle.
Sabalenka, Gauff, and Osaka ease through.
And Raducanu and Draper withdraw from the championships.
Chris, today is the 29th of June, and we are here to catch up on day 1 from Wimbledon at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Babolat. We are coming off the back of a late finish on centre court. Novak Djokovic through under the lights into round 2 to set up an interesting battle with Stefanos Tsitsipas. We also had Jannik Sinner win through in 5 sets earlier today. We'll be talking about that. Naomi Osaka debuted a new outfit as well for Wimbledon. Our Wimbledon coverage is brought to you by Babolat.
Babolat have been the official supplier of racket strings and bags for the championship since 2013, as well as providing the tournament's racket service since 2022.
And this year, they have partnered with Christie to invite tennis fans from across London to experience centre court as it comes to Chelsea Barracks from the 29th of June to the 12th of July, as they bring the spirit of the tournament to the heart of Belgravia.
Enjoy free live screenings, local food and drinks, including artisan ice creams, and a mini tennis court hosting daily activities from Babolat trainers.
Not only this, but you can also pick up their official Wimbledon merchandise, including the iconic annual Christie Championship collection and Wimbledon range, as well as Babolat's 2026 strawberries and cream inspired rackets, shoes, and accessories.
The Christie pop-up is open daily at Garrison Square from the start of play at 11 a.m. until the last point of the day.
The link to find out more is in the description, and if you can't make it down to Garrison Square this Wimbledon, you can still purchase their exclusive range at babolat.com and christie.co.uk. But Chris, it was a memorable day for some, but not really a memorable day for any of the British contingent.
Oh, it's not been good. I think we have to own up to it early. I mean, Kim was all over the grounds trying to find a Brit that could win. And I think she was the kiss of death because she saw about 5 of them lose. I'm not sure any Brits won today.
Yes, it was not a good day at all. 0-10, the Brits went. It was the worst day in 21 years. And on top of that, we also had Emma Raducanu and Jack Draper withdrawing from the championship. So, yeah, not good all round. Before we talk about Raducanu and Draper, very quickly, what do you think Dan Evans is making of those Brit losses? Because there were quite a few wild cards in there.
I think he'll be thinking I could have done better, probably.
I agree.
I told you so.
I agree.
And I also think he would have done better than some of them. And the draws weren't all that hard. So I think there are question marks. I think when Jannik Sinner knows it's a tough day for the UK, I think maybe everyone does. And it's not gone unnoticed.
Yeah, I mean, Sinner spoke in press about Jack Draper. And to me, that was actually the big surprise today in terms of withdrawals. Because, Chris, you were at his press conference on Sunday, and there was sort of no indication at all that he wasn't going to play Wimbledon. You know, he had a deep run in Eastbourne. But sadly, yes, he had a relapse of his arm injury that put him on the shelf for a while this season. And as I mentioned, he is now out of Wimbledon. I mean, this is just, I don't know. I just want to say rotten luck. He's had quite a few injuries already in his career. I've got to remind myself, he's still only 24 years old. But again, this is just, it's just another thing to add to the list, unfortunately.
It's so tough. And as you said, like I had no indication. I actually felt really positive coming out of that press conference. I thought, he said he's not quite there yet. He still thinks he can challenge with the best of them. Not quite perfect, but he's really almost back there. And I thought, here we go. Jack's going to cause an upset and go on a run. I think I believed what he was saying. I'm not sure what he knew then. I don't think he'd actively mislead us. He didn't seem sad at that moment. Emma was more obviously putting on a good show because she knew maybe what was happening, and we all had an indication. So super sad. And I think, Joel, we had a great press conference with Jack, and then we went off to, media drinks, and we thought, well,
We were all
hey.
so jolly. I was kind of thinking, oh, could Jack Draper go on a bit of a run? But yeah, depressing. I was also sad because there's been so much hype and talk about the Andy Murray coaching partnership. Everyone was so looking forward to seeing that dynamic work at Wimbledon, and they got off to a cracking start in Eastbourne. Draper getting to the semi-finals. So yeah, desperate stuff. But at the same time, I'm sort of glad that it just shows how protective he is of his body. He's only going to be coming back at 100%, and I think that is, it's really, really important. So yeah, we will have to see, what that means for him, what that means for Murray and Draper as well, because we sort of thought this was only going to be a grass court thing, but it hasn't really got started. We've had one memorable tournament, and it's left us to sort of wanting a bit more, I think.
Well, they only made it to the practice courts, Joel. I mean, we didn't even get Murray in his box. So, I mean,
I demand a refund.
Yeah, I mean, we did a special on it, I think, didn't we? A podcast special that aged badly. But if you'd like to listen to it and think about what it could have been, then I do recommend you kind of listen back to that one. But I mean, I guess we just have to hope for better things in the future for such a talented player, but such an unfortunate list of injuries now.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the tennis and let's talk about Jannik Sinner, the defending champion. He came through in a 5-set battle against Miomir Kecmanović, 4-6, 6-3, 6-7, 6-2, 6-3. Was 2 sets to 1 down. I was a little bit nervous whether we were going to get the big upset, but Chris, I mean, I had to remind myself because Carlos Alcaraz was in a very similar position against Fabio Fognini the year before, came through in 5 sets, but not the greatest start if you're looking to defend your title, is it?
No, and especially when there are question marks about your form. You haven't played since you kind of wilted in the heat at the French Open. He has obviously played exhibitions and looked pretty sharp, but, it's not the same as a match. So maybe it's kind of what Jannik Sinner needed in terms of coming through a test. But Joel, you were there. You were telling us serving wasn't looking quite good, and it did get better, did it, overall?
It needed to get better. I do think Sinner raised his game somewhat, but I think his serve was lacking throughout. It felt like he was a bit rushed at times. I didn't think he was quite timing the ball as well as he normally does. There was quite a few framed shots. I will also say Kecmanović just played out of his skin. I know he's a player who's been around. He's got a win over Zverev this season in Acapulco back in February. Like, he's definitely a player you do not want to face in round one. So yeah, Sinner did well really to, I think, come through that. But yeah, I was kind of watching it and thinking, there's been all this talk about not playing a lead-up tournament. The fact that he withdrew from Halle, decided not to play that. And I was kind of thinking, I'm not sure that was the right decision. I think based on this performance, I think he should have played a warm-up tournament.
Ooh, which one?
Well, I think he should have played Halle. I don't see why. I don't understand why he didn't. I know he maybe wanted to protect his body and keep himself fresh, but yeah, he's going to have to kind of bed into this tournament, I think. And that surprises me because we know Jannik Sinner's quality. We sort of just expect him to kind of turn up on the tennis court and come through in straight sets like he has done in, lots of Masters events, but yeah, not quite at Grand Slams.
Ooh, based on what you've seen, would you say he could, still be the Wimbledon champion? Or if he is going to win Wimbledon, he's got to up that level?
He's definitely going to up that level, and I think he's got to up that level a few gears. Chris, one thing I wanted to mention was it's been doing the rounds on social media. Everyone is talking about his foot and his shoe because some blood was seen on
some
cameras.
Blood, I mean.
He didn't really want to talk about it, but it was definitely very evident. He tried to make light-hearted jokes of it at the end, saying, "Oh, well, this will contravene the the all white policy at Wimbledon."
It's a bit sinister.
But should we be worried?
Well, I think he said it was a toenail, so I think that can be pretty painful. Clearly, he's got a very high threshold for pain because he didn't seek treatment because he was being, very conscientious to his opponent. He said so. I can't think of, that red association is very much strawberry in my mind. It might have ruined that this Wimbledon because the red and white together with the green, it didn't have the same feeling as strawberries and cream, did it? Yeah. But I think he'll be okay. I think tennis players tend to have butchered feet. But I was going to ask you something else other than about Jannik Sinner's bleeding on the court. I was going to ask you about the fact that he talked very positively about the fact he was able to open centre court as the honour that you get if you're the men's defending champion. No one has played on centre court. You were the first one too. And he said this was such a moment. He really wanted to take it all in. But I was thinking about this and thinking about how much he was falling and slipping. And I thought, well, actually, is it a good thing? Is the honour no longer beneficial from a tennis playing perspective? Very symbolic. But, I mean, a fresh grass court at Wimbledon, I mean, that is almost, it's a hazard waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a couple of slips and slides today. There was one particular moment that wasn't great off the split step where, he just kind of fell to the ground. And I do think, it maybe is something that defending champions, maybe they should be given like the option to, do you want to open up or do you want to not? Because I do think that,
or close day one, yeah.
Or close day one. Yeah, because I do think that, with the way, opening up on such a pristine court, but at the same time, I just think all the courts are kind of fraught with some sort of danger.
Court 12
you just need
today.
To be aware of it.
Maya Valinska, she had a tough fall. I think was it Ollie Tarvik also had a fall out there. So I guess there's no safe court in the early rounds of Wimbledon, but it does just feel like the least safe of the least safe experiences you can have because Djokovic was sliding all over the place as well. So. And he played last on. So maybe it wouldn't help that much. But at the same time, it's a bit of a you got to be careful out there, Joel.
You do indeed. Well, another big talking point with Jannik Sinner was around the player protest and prize money, because he is part of this group that did timed press conferences in the pre-tournament media. And he gave a very interesting response when spoken about it in press. And we're going to hear some of that now.
No, I think we talked enough about this at the moment. The Grand Slams know what we ask. And then we see how it goes. Again, I'm here now to talk about tennis. Yeah, I think it's getting better, even though we are not at the point where we are 100% happy. In the same time, we have seen improvement. Again, it's not about the money, or it's not only about the money. It's the whole scenario where we take in consideration with welfare and everything else. So. Let's see. But yeah, let's see in the future.
Didn't want to say much, did he, Joel? I mean...
Yeah, kept his cards quite close to his chest, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's a bit strange because obviously you're boycotting the people who are there to ask you questions, but then you don't want to talk about it with them, but you've announced the fact that you are doing a boycott.
It's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it?
It doesn't really land for me, and I think it's interesting that's the line he stuck to, because you were there all of media day, and Sabalenka was, she was a singing canary when it came to what she was willing to do for the cause. And you saw quite a lot of different varieties of opinions. Djokovic wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he just wanted to kind of keep neutral on the subject. And I think Sinner just wanted to talk about his tennis. He was happy to talk about all the different techniques and training methods he's been using to cope with the heat. But as soon as anything on kind of prize money. He really kind of shut down the press conference, and it sort of took me aback a little bit, because if you're kind of promoting this cause and you want to do it justice, and you're a figurehead, you're the world number one, then I would have expected you to use your platform in press to talk about it a bit more. Why you're fighting for this cause, why you're part of this movement. But he said that he really kind of wanted it to be done more in a kind of a closed doors fashion behind the scenes. But
then why do a public strike to get as much media attention as possible? It doesn't really make any sense to me. So I think they've said that the strike is now off for the rest of the tournament. There are conversations that seem to be happening, I'm not sure, because of the strike. I just think it's interesting the way these things go down, because we are, an independent podcast, Joel. We are working the media, and they are striking apparently for, those who do not have as much on the tennis playing circuit to get a bigger share of it. And you're thinking, well, everyone in that media room also has headlines to write, also has money to be made, or is paid to be in that room. And then you're not even willing to talk about the reason why you're denying them their questions. So I think it's those in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones. And I think it doesn't necessarily ring true that this is the right method. So I'm hoping this has made them realize they don't want to do a media boycott again. I think if you're going to boycott anything, you should be boycotting your Wimbledon media responsibilities, such as the social media, hitting on court one, mic'd up with Laura Robson chatting to you. You did all of that, but you're not going to give, our independent podcast a question, Joel. I think that's probably where I kind of am rolling my eyes, because I think those who are suffering from this are not necessarily the people who they are trying to get to address the problem.
Well, one player who did stay neutral on the matter is Novak Djokovic, and he came through today in 4 sets against the former junior world number one, Wu Yibing. 6-4, 5-7, 6-4, 6-4. I mean, Chris, this was also an absolutely fantastic, entertaining match. 3 hours, 12 minutes. It was Novak Djokovic, 103rd career win at the All England Club. And he was pushed very hard by Wu. Wu served 15 aces, 54 winners, 40 unforced errors. It was a little bit a tale of two matches, because it started with the roof open and then the roof closed. But Djokovic had to be on top of it, really. And he did very well, I think, not to go not really to go the distance, because that 4th set was very, very dicey at moments, I think. Lots of breakaway opportunities.
It was close. It was not a foregone conclusion. I was thinking, is this going to the curfew? But it didn't. He found a way, like he so often does. I think now we look back and we think, of course, he was going to win that match. But I mean, what a performance and what a talent from like Wu Yibing. I really think he's going to be a huge star. I think he really rose to the occasion. I think so many players don't in these big moments on centre court. So I absolutely love that. And I also loved the fact that, he wasn't intimidated by Novak Djokovic walking on in his brand new Lacoste blazer with shorts that he's wearing. Joel, you have criticised us for talking too much about fashion. Am I allowed to talk about this?
We can talk about this, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Naomi Osaka's outfit in the second half.
We're going to
have some sort of equilibrium there on the men and women's side. But yeah, what did you make of the blazer with the Lacoste crest, and also the fact that he has debuted this in round 1? Because I would associate this sort of outfit as something you might put on if you win the trophy. If we go back to what, the Roger Federer perhaps school of thought of bringing fancy items out. But yeah, what did you make of this?
Oh, maybe it was contractual. You have to wear it early,
Maybe yes, get it out there.
Yeah, I think on the crest it's a goat and a crocodile having some sort of a fight, it looks like, because Lacoste brought out like a goat range for him. They changed the logo on some of their items. So if you'd like to get yourself one of them, I'm sure they're still available. I think he looks a bit, a little bit Harry Potter schooly. It's quite schoolboy.
He almost looks like the guy who's been tasked during the finals to take out the bag for the players, I think.
Yeah, it looks a little
Because
bit
he
like
had a lab coat on, didn't he?
it's a bit lab coat, but also it is still in the Wimbledon white. So I'm not fully sold on it, but I think he can rock a lot of things. I probably prefer the clay wolf jacket. I think this is a little bit too much of a contrast with the informal shorts and attire. But I mean, it was a busy day. Not only was he under the lights, the roof was closed. He also was congratulating a couple who got engaged in the stands.
It was all going on. We haven't even mentioned the fact that Bad Bunny
Bad Bunny was there.
was in his player box after he was in what I've been reliably told La Casita
Yes.
during his performances
In Tottenham.
in London
Yes.
in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I think last night or the other night.
It's
But
like an
hang on,
exchange, isn't it? That one's done one, one's done the other. I mean, he even opened part of the show. You know, he was on the mic at Bad Bunny. I think Centre Court should be renamed.
Is that good? Is that good grass court prep? Do you think?
Well, Coco Gauff won today, and she was in La Casita as well, dancing away for 2 hours. She was telling us all about that. She did say she was slightly offended that Bad Bunny went to Djokovic's match, not Coco's. They were playing at the same time. And she was like, I danced for 2 hours up there, and he didn't come my way. But at the same time, I was thinking, Joel, it could be La Centre Casita today because Bad Bunny was there and Djokovic got the win.
Yes, very good, very good. Yeah, I know it was a very surprising to see. I was almost surprised that he wasn't in the royal box, and then it got me thinking. You know, David Beckham was in the royal box. Who was the biggest celebrity on the court? I actually think Bad Bunny's bigger than David Beckham at the moment.
Oh, definitely. They had a picture together, and I think Bad Bunny's having more of a moment. But I mean, it was a big moment overall. I think getting that first win out the way, especially with the likes of David Beckham and Bad Bunny in the audience. And I mean, he's got what will happen in his next round. Joel has got me thinking.
I mean, Djokovic Tsitsipas. I mean, this was what Grand Slam final a few
Yeah,
years ago. Now it's Grand Slam
second
round
round.
2. So, I mean, if there is a moment for Tsitsipas to bring his A game, very interesting timing with the fact that he has just fired his dad from his coaching setup, his
Again.
coaching team again. Yeah, I've actually lost count, but yeah, it will be very interesting to see how that gets on. I mean, just recapping a couple of other things that happened elsewhere. Casper Ruud, Chris is out, Andrei Rublev is out. I think they went out like within 20 minutes of each other. Ruud, maybe I'm not as surprised about.
It was a
But
tough
Rublev,
draw
on
against
the other hand,
Hurkacz.
Rublev against Safulin, I was not expecting that.
Not expecting that either. And he's really fallen off, hasn't he, Rublev? Which is a shame because he's so talented. And I mean, you never know what's going to happen at Wimbledon. First rounds are never easy, but he's really struggled to go deep at majors recently. So I think he'll be looking to improve on that. Back on the hard courts, I think it's probably his best surface. And I think there were some good wins for people we don't normally associate with grass. I mean, Hodar is in his first sort of real season. Felix hasn't always been great on grass. He got through, and Medvedev made Cilic look pretty average out there, despite having such a big serve. So, we've got some good form and something for Kim, Joel. PCB got a win.
Yeah, I can't believe how terrible Pablo Carreño Busta's record at
Worse than
Wimbledon.
Casper, is it?
He's 0-7
That is worse than Casper.
at Wimbledon. He up until this tournament had never gone past round 1, and we're talking about a player who's reached a Grand Slam semi-final on 2 occasions at the US Open. So yeah, for him to get his first win today, yeah, was unbelievable scenes for someone. I was wondering if he was actually going to go through his whole career without a Wimbledon victory. That would have been something. But yeah, he is through to round 2. We're going to take a quick break now, though. Do join us in the second half where we will be discussing all the women's action from day 1, including Coco Gauff's first win at Wimbledon since 2024, as well as looking ahead to day 2, where Serena Williams is returning to singles action at the championships after a 4-year hiatus. So do not go anywhere. A lot of your fans this grass court season have been calling you Naomi Osaka. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think that that's a really cute nickname, and hopefully, I'm able to win a lot more matches for them to be able to continue calling themselves that.
Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast brought to you by Babolat. And it's time now to look back on the women's action from day one. And it was a lot more smooth sailing, wasn't it, Chris, for the big names? Sabalenka coming through very easily. Coco Gauff also coming through very easily. Let's start with Sabalenka because she rated her performance an 8 out of 10, 6-2, 6-3 over the qualifier Teodora Kostovic.
You loved this, Joel. You were so excited.
I was very excited for this, mainly because of the chat that Kostovic was bringing in the build-up. Yeah, real fighting talk in the build-up to her match, because once she qualified, she was asked about the prospect of facing Sabalenka, and she said, let's see if she can deal with my power. Of course I can beat her. I can beat anybody when I'm in the zone.
Yelena Ostapenko.
I love this confidence.
She's giving Ostapenko. I mean, I do love it. I think she did put out a pretty good fight. I do think if Sabalenka was made aware of that, it would really ignite the fire in her. I feel like she can't lose to someone who, thinks that or said that. But she was very complimentary and said that she's going to have a fantastic future. So I think maybe she's having a bit of fun, trying to get a few headlines, get our attention, because it certainly did.
Yes, indeed. And she also was asked she was asked about Carlos Alcaraz, and she said, I really love him and hopefully one day I will marry him. So she's obviously a bit of a joker in the press room. So maybe we need to get to one of her press conferences.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun one. And maybe he is single, The Emma Raducanu rumors were last year. She's got her own rumors now, and then
she's making her own headlines. Yeah,
she is. So Carlos, maybe she's trying to hit him up in the DMs.
Well, Coco Gauff also won in very convincing fashion against Tamara Korpach in under an hour. Very, very, very slick performance from Coco Gauff, who admittedly herself has said, I'm not the greatest grass court player. She's spoken about this idea that she's still trying to search for a more natural identity on the grass courts. And in fact, this was her first win at Wimbledon since 2024. How impressed, Chris, were you with Coco Gauff's performance? Because, yeah, we should really be talking about her as a contender, but based on her recent form, there's sort of that sort of, jolt from there's sort of that pushback of like, we can't really do it because of her previous record.
I mean, what's surprising is she had her breakthrough at Wimbledon. So I think we all thought she was a natural grass courter, but actually I think she was just a natural fighter on any surface. And she really did kind of win matches that Wimbledon kind of the ugly way a little bit. So now I think she's looking to play clean grass court tennis. So she actually got to Wimbledon early. She didn't enter another tournament, even though she didn't get a win on the lead up on the grass, and wanted to kind of find rhythm and really practice some of the basics. So I think she was a lot more prepared this year. I really thought she played pretty well. I did make it out there on court 2. I was really impressed. And I think that...
What impressed you most?
I think the way that she's adapted her game to the surface. I saw her play in Paris and it was very loopy balls, lots of top spin. That was against Maya Sharif, so maybe that was why it was so loopy. But this was much more adapted, much more aggressive, measured. And it felt like, yeah, she's got the game for grass. She just hasn't really had the time to find it, I think, before she's been, bundled out in round 1.
Yeah. And I think also, again, she spoke about like the feeling of going for it, like particularly on her serve. I think in the past, she's felt that she's kind of held back a little bit. But even today, yeah, she was clocking the speed gun. I mean, she hit multiple 120 mile per hour plus serves, top serve 126 miles per hour. So I definitely think that's going to help her.
Yeah, the serve was great. Yeah, that is big.
So, yeah, we shall see. But yeah, good signs for Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka. And Chris, because we spoke about Novak Djokovic and his white blazer in the first half, we have to talk about Naomi Osaka.
But we're on a timer. We'll add 1 minute.
Yes. We have to talk about her Japanese-inspired outfit at Wimbledon that she walked on court for in her victory over Elsa Giacomo today. Yes, it was Japanese-inspired, all-white kimono-style ceremonial dress decorated with embroidered cranes and cherry blossom. Yeah, how did this do anything for you? How does this compare to previous efforts from her? Because I think the French Open, that was a lot more sparkly, a little bit more glittery, and here she had to obviously deal with the all white clothing rule.
I prefer the on-court dress to last year. I do like it. I think it's very nice what she's done with it. I think it's very striking. I'm probably at the point now where I prefer the editorial shoots than I do the actual on-court presentation of the look, because I am just thinking about the person across the net thinking, what on earth is going on? You know, I think it's if you do it every time, I think it loses that moment. And I normally am always there to see the walkout of Naomi Osaka.
Have you lost the moment?
I didn't make it my business to do it this time, I think. So I would like it to be not every time, but I'd like her to really drop something and then we all take note again. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. But I think it's great. I think you said was it Kill Bill inspired as well?
Yeah, she said in press that it was inspired one of her favorite films, which is Kill Bill, and Lucy Liu's character in Kill Bill. And I could definitely see that come through. I think what I liked about it was that it had a bit of theatre with it. When you combined her dress with her tennis racket, it almost looked like she had, like, the tennis racket was her samurai sword. That's what I was envisaging.
It's very striking.
When she kind of stepped on.
Yes, very striking. I like it a lot. And I think, she had time to prepare for this. Serena Williams was asked about her fashion. She said, well, if you don't know you're coming back, you don't have time to get the outfits together. So I'm not expecting too much from Serena tomorrow outfit-wise. And maybe Naomi Osaka is actually, she's carrying us all through the fashion world.
Well, before we talk about Serena Williams and her singles campaign tomorrow, we do need to clear up one thing from the media day with Serena Williams, because she was asked about kind of doping regulations in regards to testing, and this is what she had to say about testing and when and where it happens.
It's grueling. They changed the rules now. I didn't know some of the rules. So apparently, like, if you miss a test outside of your window, it still counts as missed. I'm like, so I guess I can't go pick up my kids. It's unprofessional, I think. I hate it. I think it's necessary, but I think that a lot of this stuff is, if I want to go places outside of my window, I should be able to go without having it count as a missed test.
Strong words from Serena. I was taken aback by this completely. To say that it's unprofessional and you hate it is very strong in the doping scenario. She did kind of say some other parts of the quote that we aren't able to include, which said that she will do what it takes to be an athlete, and she's aware of that. But I mean, there's a lot of misinformation going on there, because it's not the case that the rules have changed, and it's also not the case that you can get a strike for missing a test outside of the window. You get a strike for refusing a test like Vondrousova did. So that's something that's quite surprising. And I think the way she's talked about it makes it seem like she has no freedom to do anything. That's not the case. She can do what she likes. The whereabouts you do have to do, that's part of something she's always had to do. So I'm not sure what she thinks has changed, or maybe she's had time away and it feels particularly arduous now. But I mean, I'm always skeptical when athletes kind of protest too much about going through the process of protecting the integrity of the sport. I think you can criticize the institutions, but I don't think you can criticize the act of testing and being available for testing, because it's so important. One player, I was going to say, Joel, you weren't there for this one, but Jessica Pegula said that she felt sorry for Vondrousova because it felt like too big a ban for not having tested positive. Interesting that that's sort of the take of the players. I think that kind of does summarize the feeling. But I mean, are players too lenient on this side of things? The fact that they have missed a test, or refused a test in this case, obviously, doesn't mean that you're clean. But it also, they're taking it as it doesn't mean that you tested positive. And you did bring up Jannik, did bring up Iga, But I guess kind of like, what's your take on the media wrap up of the doping unpacked?
Yeah, I think it's very. I think they are so. It's so routined into their life. They're gonna have their own strong opinions on it, and I don't think two opinions are the same. I think for Vondrousova, she did refuse the test, and I think that's kind of a bit of a difference between that and missing a test and maybe having to kind of stick around and be in the right window. So yeah, I can see kind of how these sorts of things, there's lots of different elements, and I think if you don't have the whole picture, you kind of maybe that sort of leads to maybe kind of this sort of misinformed life.
That is what JPEG said. She said she doesn't know the ins and outs, but it felt like too much. And I think I'm just surprised by how uninformed the players are when it comes to this. It's quite surprising to me that you would put things out there on quite a controversial topic when clearly you aren't aware of what the rules are or what's actually happened. Yep. And I guess that's also where kind of I wasn't on that episode of the podcast, and it feels like a natural time to give a very short opinion. But I mean, the way that it's been portrayed of they said this, we said that, I think maybe mistakes were made on both parts. But I mean, you refuse a test, you know what the consequences are going to be of that. You called your agent before and you still signed the paperwork. So I think I'm definitely on the side that a ban is necessary. I think 4 years is trying to make the point that obviously you can't prove you're clean and therefore it has to count as a negative test. And it's very hard to explain away why you refuse to test. So I think that's what they don't understand, is that you didn't just happen to miss one. You need to explain why you actively refused to be tested when you made contact with them. So I guess we'll find out more. Maybe more players will be asked. No one's dared ask Jannik Sinner or Iga Swiatek yet, but no, I mean, we won't be the ones to do it.
I was sort of worried someone might go down that route, but no, we have not heard that yet. But looking ahead to the order of play for day 2, I mean, Chris, I could talk about all the singles matches that are happening tomorrow, but I'm only interested in one. We're only interested in one, and it is third on centre court, Serena Williams versus Maya Joint, 4 years after she was at Wimbledon in the singles competition. The last time she played here, yes, this is an incredible moment, but also a moment I think that comes with great jeopardy for Serena Williams, given Maya Joint and Maya Joint's form this season.
It does. I think she's going to be very nervous. I think Maya Joint will be very nervous as well. I'm not sure it's going to be the highest quality, but what I liked about what Serena said is that no one's really seen her play like properly. They've seen her play some doubles, have a bit of a hit. And I'm excited because I don't know what Serena's going to turn up. I don't think anyone does. I'm not even sure Serena does. So it's going to be blockbuster. It's going to be completely thrilling. And I can't wait to talk about it tomorrow.
Well, we're going to wrap up there for our Wimbledon Day 1 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from Wimbledon, where we are producing daily episodes across the fortnight. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
Yes, these are video episodes and we are posting content from the site. And that's on our social channels, where you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and X. And if you want to get in touch with us, you could email us. We do mailbags after Wimbledon, but during Wimbledon, we love to hear from you. So do drop us an email, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back on Tuesday for our Wimbledon Day 2 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat. We're going to be talking all things Serena in that episode, no doubt. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.